Audio Jungle.
Are we audible, Miss Basan?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Hello, Philippines, and hello, world. This is ETV, say no to pollution and yes to recycle. This is your reporter, Andrea, together with
Monica Centeno, bringing you the latest and hottest environmental news for today.
For the headline, two well-known environmentalists announces the climate emergency in the Philippines.
It was said by Guerrero that we only have 12 years left to stop the devastating effects of climate change and global warming. With that, these two environmentalists will help us understand the factors and the alternatives.
Let us call on Ameera, Crespo, and Penelope Cruz. Ameera, Penelope, are you there?
Good day, Andrea and Monica, and to all your watchers watching right now. As we all know, the world has been progressing in the best and worst way possible. And that can be easily seen in the environment nowadays, right? Carbon emissions threaten the oxygen people breathe, plethora of climate dilemmas such as climate change that we face on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, Miss Penelope, you mean richer nations have little no problem with climate issues since they are the ones who sowed the seeds of it, right?
Yes, since they are the ones who are the most responsible for why we face many dilemmas today. Guerrero stated that climate change continues to drastically affect the way of living for humans. Consequently, richer nations have done no actions to avert all of it.
I see your points there, Miss Penelope. Your statement also highlighted that poorer nations are more affected despite being not a total contributor to climate change. Am I correct, Miss Ameera?
Good day, everyone. To answer your question, Monica, yes, in continuation to Penelope's statement, they are the main source of toxic emission from fossil fuels, and by dumping their wastes to third world countries like the Philippines, for example, that industrialized nations take advantage of the unkept regulations of the poorer countries. They export their waste to the Philippines since it is not expensive and they can avoid facing the strict regulations at their own country.
Okay, Miss Ameera, but Guerrero 2020 demonstrated that even though it was caused by the neglect of huge companies, impoverished nations are more affected by its negative consequences. How can we reflect on that? Or are we those who are affected of it?
To answer your question, Andrea, Southeast Asia has been treated as the world's dumping site. It has been decades since China, who is the biggest source of this waste, produces half of the world's plastic waste, dump their plastic scraps to fuel their manufacturing sector. So basically, we are all affected by their wastes.
Monica, I think you're muted. Can you unmute?
Sorry for that. Anyhow, because of the neglect of private sectors, there has also been an influence on our environment, generating a recurring tragedy, right?
You're right. With that, individuals are cognizant of their own authority and power, using the rights-based approach, which supports them in building a sense of responsibility to fulfill their commitments based on what is ethically right.
Since you said about rights-based approach, Miss Ameera, why do you think it is important to use a rights-based approach first and foremost?
Rights-based approach invigorates people to make the government be more responsible when they have done a heinous crime such as global warming. Hence, they are pushing for rightful treatment in terms of their rights.
Thank you, Miss Ameera, for that. Now I understand how important the rights-based approach is when talking about our issue for today. Anyway, do you have any additional information, Miss Penelope?
Well, according to the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical Astronomical Services Administration, the most recent scientific investigation have proven that human activity is most likely to blame for global warming and climate change.
So it was due to the increase of greenhouse gas concentrations induced by human activities, including the use of fossil fuels, changes in land use. Am I right, Ms. Ameera?
Yes, Andrea. As per the CDP's Carbon Majors database in 2017, there are at least 100 companies accountable for world's greenhouse gas emissions, which proves that capitalists threaten our environment. Human activities as well as companies are to blame.
And in addition to that, Amira, according to the Commission of Human Rights, oil and cement companies, as well as 47 private and state-owned companies, contributed to the drastic effects of climate change.
That is truly a sad and bad news, Miss Penelope. Anyhow, are they even held accountable for their actions?
As far as I remember, in 2019, the CHR Commissioner Roberto Cadiz stated that the national human rights sector did not sue any of the companies, both private and state-owned.
Wait, I have another question, Miss Penelope. Do you think since we have faced the effects of climate change, can we avert the actions that have been done?
To answer your question, Andrea, as per the Program Manager of Living Laudato Si Philippines and Climate Action for Sustainability Initiative, Jan Algon, in order to reach sustainability, a country must free itself from carbon emissions and shift to renewable energy.
Yes, however, an environmentalist, Schellenberger, stated that renewable energy sources such as solar panels and windmills require so much land and energy production. Some countries lack the budget and space for renewable energy, thus, sustainability will not be possible in all countries and carbon emissions will not be eliminated.
Thank you, Miss Ameera and Miss Penelope, for the informative discussion and explanation.
Thank you to ETV for inviting us for the talk today. I just want to say that we should keep in mind what we use and throw away and be cautious of the environment.
We are privileged today, Monica and Andrea. Thank you for having us today to speak up for the vulnerable.
With
It
that,
is a very informative.
with that partner, let's give a round of applause.
It is a very informative discussion for our news today. It is true that every advancement has both positive and negative consequences that might have a significant impact on individuals, particularly the unprivileged. Right, Andrea?
That's right, Monica. The large amount of carbon emission endangers people's health. As fossil fuel companies continue to regulate in our country and continuous dumping of waste by international countries to our land, while we are still dealing with the challenge of climate change due to the government's failure to implement policies to protect Filipino human rights and protection of our land.
In addition to that, it can be seen that the authorities talk about sustainable growth all the time. Rendering it mostly without action makes it meaningless, right? Also, sustainability goes a step further by limiting environmental devastations to a manageable level. That's a fine place to start, but it doesn't repair what's broken. It was said by William that we can delay but not reverse or combat climate change if we stop here. We wouldn't be able to recover depleted species or degraded soil. We were just halfway across the bridge. What are your thoughts on this, Andrea?
I agree. In any case, affluent nations have little or concern about climate change, since they are the ones who reap, but they are not the ones who will sow the seeds of climate change.
Anyhow, despite the worsening conditions of our environment, the nation can still partake in protecting the environment, such as joining the movement where it aims to call for climate action, advocating for sustainability, and supporting companies that mitigate fuel-free products. Lastly, you can join a call to strengthen your Public Act 6969, which deals with dangerous substances and nuclear waste management.
And this is now the end of our news for today. Remember to be informed, understand, and be part of change. Again, I'm Andrea Condes.
And I am Monica Centeno. This is ETV, Say No to Pollution and Yes to Recycle, bringing you the latest and hottest environmental news for today. Thank you!
Thank you, everyone.